Hi class, this is the first video for the Exchange class. What we're going to do is start the setup. I'm going to try to do the setup in one video, which will be probably an hour long, maybe a couple hours long. But that's with me pausing it, so it might take you 3 or 4 hours to actually do the lab. So the first thing I did was I signed in with my student account. I'm going to go over here and copy the Exchange lab. Activate it. Still waiting for it to activate. Okay, guys, I screwed up on this, so I'm going to change it CD. So I'm going to grab that CD and put that into the DC. I'm waiting for it to go. So the DC should have the Windows Server 2016 disk. The mail server should have Server 2012 R2. Guys, and I'll explain why I chose 2012. And for the client, Windows 10. So I'm going to boot all these machines up. I'm going to go to the console for the DC, walk through the wizard to install Windows Server 2016. I don't have a product ID. 2016 Standard Desktop Edition, Experience rather. And do a custom install. Okay, now I'm going to the mail server. This is 2012 R2. Install now. Now, in 2016, I did the desktop experience. On 2012, it's called Server with GUI. But if I installed 2016 here and chose the desktop experience, and when I go to do the Exchange install, it basically says it's running, it thinks it's running server core when it's not. If I do a Windows update, I can actually get it to do the installation of Exchange, but we can't reach Windows Update. So instead of trying to fight that battle, I'm just going to have it use 2012 R2 for the Exchange server. And it's basically because of this point. If it doesn't see a graphic user interface, it is going to kill the installation. And because the new installation calls it desktop experience, it doesn't see the GUI being installed, even though it's installed. Click next. Accept the license, custom, and use the full disk. And do the same thing with the client. I'm going to choose education. I'm going back to the DC. I'm going to pause this video. It's going to take a while for it to get past this point. I'll continue the video and add to this. I'm going to make the setup all one video. So it's going to be several days for me to make the video, probably several days for you to do the video. Okay, that's it for right now. I'll come back once the installation is done. Okay, the installation is done. So now I'm going to configure host names and IP settings. I'm on the DC right now. First thing I'm going to do is change my time zone and unlock my browser. Configure my IP settings. And I'm going to point, because this is my DC, I'm going to point to my 2 upstream DNS servers. All other machines will point to this one, because this will eventually be my DNS server. Now I'm going to install Active Directory on this machine. Now I'm going to encrypt my password and promote it to domain controller. Hold on 1 second. I'm recording. Okay, I'll be in there. Okay, I've encrypted my password. Sorry, wrong command. Now it's going to promote to a domain controller and reboot. So I'm going to pause the video here and let that go through its process. Okay, the promotion is done, so I'm going to sign into the DC. I'm going to go into DNS. I'm going to create my reverse. My subnet mask is 24 bits, so I'm going with all 3 octets. Also, I'm going to create a new MX record. When other domains contact me, they don't know who my email server is. So basically, this is just telling other networks who my email server is. So I'm just going to right click the zone, new mail exchange record, and the top line normally is blank. So I'm just going to go down here and just say mail.contoso.com. That's going to be the fully qualified domain name of the email server once it's up and running. Click OK. If you want, you can create a pointer record for the DC. Okay, so if we go to our reverse right now, we'll see we have a pointer record for the DC. So let's move on to the mail server. Set the password. Then we're going to do the host name and IP settings and join it to the domain. Now again, this is on a 2012 R2 box. I'm going to unlock the browser and fix the time zone. Fix my IP settings. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so now I'm going to point my DNS server to my DC. I'm going to change the computer name and join it to the domain. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, the email server is joined to the domain, so I'm going to sign in as a domain admin. I'm going to go to the root of my C drive and create a new folder called Exchange Source Files. Right click and share it. Now I'm going to go back to my lab and inject the Exchange CD into the mail server. I'm going to choose that CD and put it in the mail server. I might need to eject this one first. No, I didn't need to eject it. I just had to wait. So I'm going to go back to the console for the email server. Open the CD drive. Now this is just a zip file. So I'm going to double click it, unzip all the files into that folder we just created. I'm going to browse to that folder and extract everything into that folder. I'm going to pause it while this is going on. Guys, I just realized I was paused when that happened. Basically, what I did was on my DC, sorry about that, I ran a search for Exchange 2016 AD Prep. I went to this first link. I did this as from a Google search. And I scrolled down till I got to the part of extending the Active Directory schema. I need to run this command. This setup is in those files that we just extracted from the mail server on the mail server. When we created this folder and we extracted that, it has this setup. This setup does three things. It preps my schema, it preps my Active Directory, and it actually does the install. The reason why we shared it is so we can get to this file on the DC. So I went to my DC, open up the command prompt with admin rights, and I type in my UNC of that share. Then I paste it in all of this right afterwards. Right here, right, what this is doing right now is prepping my schema. Again, I'm on my DC, putting the server name and the share name of that folder we extracted to on the email server and just pasted that line right there. Copy. And it's doing its thing. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, my schema has been prepped. So now I'm going to prep my Active Directory. Again, I'm going to put the UNC path of the share, put a backslash. I'm going to scroll down here until I get to the prep Active Directory section. I'm going to copy this. Actually, I can just click copy. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to go back and change my organization name. Guys, the only reason that you need to have quotes is if you have a space in it. So you don't really need those quotes. Contoso. Now it's prepping Active Directory. So I did the same thing up here. I just typed in the UNC path and pasted in setup, prepare schema, I accept Exchange Server license terms. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, Active Directory is prepped. So now I'm going to close this window, minimize this for now. Now I'm going to install a certificate server. We're doing all the prep stuff before we actually install Exchange. I'm just doing the certificate server on a DC. In reality, I would never do this, but for right now, we're just going to keep it on the same machine, just so we don't have to create a new machine just for a certificate server. I'm not going to generate certificates for routers or switches, so I'm not going to install that one. So this is just like the CA lab that we did in 1392. Again, I'm going to pause it. Okay, now that it's installed, we're going to configure it. So I'm going to click on the link to configure the CA. Click Next. Guys, if you remember, if we check this, we get an error message. That's normal. So just check this one, and those are the things we're going to configure first. Then it'll prompt us to configure this last service after we're done. It's going to be an enterprise CA, a root. And again, this is why I wouldn't install this on a DC. This root server really needs to be taken offline. Once the root server is configured, you need to configure a subordinate CA and use the subordinate and take your root offline. If your root's on the DC, it's going to cause all kind of problems because you can't really take a DC offline. I'm going to create a new private key. Really not changing anything. I can't choose a certificate because I don't have a CA, so I'm going to choose create a certificate later. Configure. During this process, it's actually going to create a certificate for me. Click close. It's realizing I didn't configure everything, so it's going to prompt me through the wizard again. Click next. Choose the last item to configure. Next. It's asking where do we want to get a certificate from. RCA is up and running now. I want to use the built-in identity. I'm not going to have you create a service account. Choose that certificate because now it's created. Then configure. So that's done. So let's go in and start creating some templates. Let's create an administrator template. Don't make changes to the original, always duplicate it. I'm going to call this Contoso. Subject name. Guys, in the past, I had you uncheck this email. We don't need to now because we've extended our schema. We might get an error initially, but once everything is set up, we'll be able to get certificates for user type accounts. For security, so we really don't need to go on the subject name tab for any of these, just the general and the security. So for domain admin accounts, we want to enroll and auto enroll. Enterprise admin, enroll and auto enroll. We can even do this for local accounts if we wanted to, but I'm just going to leave that off for now. Let's go into CA Exchange. So I'm going to duplicate this certificate. This has nothing to do with the Exchange server. This is just a certificate for the Exchange, for the CA. Publish an Active Directory for security. The only one that should enroll and auto enroll is this machine itself, the CA itself. Read, enroll, and auto enroll. Domain controllers. Duplicate it. Publish an Active Directory. Domain controllers should be enroll and auto enroll and read. Click OK. Domain controller authentication. Under General, publish an Active Directory for security. Authenticated users enroll and auto enroll. Now this is for our email server, these two certificates. So we're going to duplicate these. Authenticated users enroll and auto enroll. Again, this one is also for the email server. Publish an Active Directory, enroll and auto enroll for authenticated users. Online responder. Go to General. Security. The only one who needs to enroll in this is the CA itself. Enroll and auto enroll. Users. Go to General. Security. Authenticated users enroll and auto enroll. User signature. Publish an Active Directory. For security, authenticated users enroll and auto enroll. Web server. Under General tab. Publish an Active Directory. We only really need this for our web servers, but I'm just going to do it for authenticated users because I didn't create a group of all my web servers. And workstation authentication. Authenticated users enroll and auto enroll. So we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 certificates. I'm going to close this out. Then I want to publish those templates. So right click, certificate template, new certificate template to issue. And because we use that name, they'll all be in a row. Hold down shift and grab all of them. Click OK. And there's all of our certificates. So now what we're going to do is create a group policy telling everyone about the certificate server. Create a new group policy. We're going to go first to computer configuration, policy, Windows settings, security settings, and then public key policy. And we're going to configure these three policies. Enable, click OK. Define, click OK. Auto enroll, enable, check both these boxes. Click OK. We're going to collapse this and do the same thing for users. User configuration policy, Windows settings, security settings, and public key policy, and configure these three. Enable, click OK. Enable, allow profiles to be roamed through Active Directory. We don't have any roaming users, roaming user profile, so that's fine. Enable this, check these two boxes. Now we're going to link that to our domain. GP update, forced. I'm also going to do that to the mail server. Okay, I'm going to go back to the DC. I'm going to open up the CA utility. We've gotten some certificates so far. You notice that none of these are user certificates. And we're going to have some failed. And the reason why we have failed is because that email field is not available yet because we haven't installed our email server. So that's fine that these are failed. So the next thing we need to do is configure the online responder. Oh, I want to go back here and verify I have a certificate for the online responder. So now I do have a ticket for the online responder. So I'm going to go to Tools, Online Responder, and configure this. Highlight Revocation Configuration and add a revocation configuration. Click Next. Grab a certificate from our CA. Browse. Which CA do we want to use? Ours. We only have one. It'll find the certificate automatically. finish. That's done. Okay, I'm going to pause the video for now. Okay, our CA is set up for now. So what we're going to do is continue with more prereqs for the Exchange server. So now I'm going to go to the email server. Close this window out. I'm going to open up Internet Explorer. I'm going to do a search of the Exchange 2016 prereqs. And it should be the first article. So they give you the prereqs for both 2012 and 2016. So we need to install this on our Exchange server, but it's actually included down here. So here are the prereqs for the mailbox server role, and I'll go into that. That's what we're installing. And then they talk about the Edge server role. And here are the prereqs for if you're installing it on a 2016 box. Guys, the reason why we can't use the 2016 server is because we're not able to install this update. Without having this update installed, it never sees that the 2016 server has a graphic user interface. So it dies there during the prereq check when you do the install. So just to keep our life simple, sorry, I disconnected from, okay. So I'm gonna scroll up back to 2012. 2012 R2, the prereqs for the mailbox server role. I'm going to copy this. Open up PowerShell and paste it. Maybe not. Copy, allow access. I'm going to choose this one just because of preferences. So I just pasted it in there. Hit enter, let it do its thing. So instead of going through the graphic interface and installing each one of those, choosing a little checkbox, I'm just going to paste it in there and let it install everything. While it's installing that, we need to download this. I want it to save it. I'm going to close it for right now. Go back to our prereq page. Okay, class. When I was filming the last video, the internet went down here and I couldn't access Ace IT Labs and it kind of screwed everything up. So what I did was I rebooted my DC, I rebooted my email server, and I'm going to manually synchronize the time. So I set the time on the DC. Now I'm going to go to the email server. Open up a command prompt. And run that command. So now my time's synchronized. Okay, so I'm still on my Exchange server. Guys, I'm gonna have to reload this page because of the power of the network outage. I'll go back to this page. So what we've done so far is install all of this 2012 R2. Guys, I did a reboot after this installation. We don't need to install this. We'll install a different version of .NET Framework later. So we just need to install this. Guys, I already clicked it and I already downloaded it when the power went out, when the network went out. So I'm going to install this. This is done. I'm going to go here. Just going to walk through the wizard and install it. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, that's done. So now at this point, we are ready to actually install the Exchange server. So I'm going to go to my C drive. I'm going to go to the Exchange source files and double click Setup here at the bottom. It doesn't really matter what we choose here. We're not going to be able to reach updates. So I'm going to click Next, accept the license agreement. I'm going to use the recommended settings. I'm going to install the mailbox role, and it will automatically install the management tools. And I'm also going to tell it if I'm missing any roles or features, automatically install them. It's going to install it in this directory. I don't have any malware, so I'm not going to disable anything. If you have some third-party malware, you might need to disable it while it's running, while you're installing Exchange Server. No, I'm sorry, that's not what it's asking. It's saying, do you want to disable the malware software inside of Exchange? No, we're going to leave it alone. We don't have a third-party product to scan for malware inside the Exchange server. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, now it's telling me I need to download additional software and I need to do a reboot. So I'm going to do that install right now. I'll click on that link. It's an offline installer. The reason I'm installing this .NET versus the one from the prereq page is because the one from the prereq page gives me an error. So I chose just to install this one. It's still the same as .NET. Normally we wouldn't have had to do this if we were able to get the Windows update. It's saying it needs to close the setup programs. So I'm going to close it out and click yes. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, guys, I clicked OK, and it's asking me to restart my machine. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, my computer booted up. I'm signed back into the Exchange server. I'll go back to my C drive, Exchange source files. and setup. Connect to the internet for updates. There are no updates. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, I'm going to click next, accept the license agreement, recommended settings. I'm going to do the mailbox role, which includes the management tools. Automatically install any missing software from add remove from uh, Windows, the built-in Windows installer. That's the directory to install it to. I'm not going to disable the malware stuff inside of Exchange. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, it's done with the prereqs. There's no issues. Now we're ready to actually install the Exchange server. Now we're just installing the mailbox role. We're not going to install the Edge role. We won't be using the Edge role at all in this setup. The Edge role is just a Microsoft mail relay agent. We don't want to put our email server directly connected to the internet. At that point, it could get hacked. So what we do is we put the email server inside of our private network, and then anytime we want to send mail out, we send it out through the Edge server, and the Edge server is the only machine that's exposed to the internet. We don't have to worry about that in this setup because we're really not going to be sending any emails out because the school's policy doesn't allow us to do it. So this is going to take a while, so I'm going to stop this video, and um, next time I'm on campus, I'll continue where I left off. Okay, thank you. Okay, class, the installation is finished. I need to reboot, but before I do, I'm going to click this link so it doesn't go away. If you do miss clicking the link, you can just do a search for Exchange 2016 post-installation task. Right now, this is actually bringing me to the 2013, so it's not the right one I want anyways. So I'm just going to do a search. Exchange 2016 post-installation. I want this article, not the one in the link. The link is for the old 2013 Exchange server. I'm going to finish here, bookmark this so I can go back to it. These are some things we need to do to continue on with the setup. So first thing I'm going to do is do a reboot. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, guys, my computer's rebooted, so I'm going to, I launched the Internet Explorer. I'm going to go to my favorites and go to the post-installation task. My machine is running extremely slow, so I'm just going to keep pausing until the video is not long. Okay, class, this is taking forever. I think we're still having internet problems. I'll be getting emails about the internet going up and down. So what I'm going to do is end this for right now and upload this video. I still have some post-installation tasks I need to do and some little bit of cleanup so we have access to all of our applications that we need right here on the taskbar or in the start menu. So right now I'm just going to end this, and this will be the first week video. Guys, it's going to be rather long, so, oh, it's up. So let's try to get through it. So guys, I'm going to click on configure mail flow and client access. We're not going to have mail flow through the Edge server. We're going to avoid the Edge server. In our setup, we're not going to have the Edge server. This is just a mail relay client that sits on the outside of your network to relay clients between your Exchange server and your and other email servers. Since we're not really going to be sending any email outside of our organization, we're just going to set this up. Okay, so what we need is to open up our um, browser and go to this URL. And we're going to replace this with our host name. So I'm going to go click Start. Scroll over till you see the Mail Exchange server stuff and click on this link. And right now we haven't requested a new certificate, so it's using the self-generated certificate, which we don't trust. But that's fine for right now. So we're going to continue to this website. You don't really need to bookmark this because we have it under our start menu. So I'm going to do Contoso, Administrator, and sign in. I'm going to store the password. So we need to go to Mailflow, Send Connectors. I'm going to pause this video for a minute. Okay, sorry, someone was at my door. So Mailflow, Send Connectors. We don't need to set up any receive connectors because it's already there for us. A send connector is the flow that mail is going to take to be sent out. Receive connectors is going to be the flow of mail to receive for mail coming in. So that's already configured for us. What we're going to do is set up a send connector. Hit the plus sign, and you can just follow this article. Create a new send connector, and give it a name, then we're going to select internet. So I'm just going to call it internet and choose internet. Click next. And it's going to want us to verify our mail or MX record. I'm going to go to my DC and verify that we have it set up. So I'm going to go to my tools, DNS, forward lookup zone. Do I have an MX record for my mail server? And I do. I'm going to go back to my email server and verify the MX record associated with the recipient domain is selected. It's selected. I just wanted to make sure that I actually had that record in place. We need to click add and a domain and make sure SMTP is selected in the type field and fully qualified domain field. Enter asterisk dot and click save. Click plus. Asterisk. That's going to represent, give me 1 second guys, someone's still at my door. Okay, guys, I'm back. So we're just going to hit an asterisk here, and that's going to be a wildcard for all domains. This is going to be sending out to the internet, so we want to make sure that we represent all domains. So this will be asterisk. Click next. Make sure the scope send connector isn't selected. Guys, that was in the previous screen, and it's not selected. Under server source, click add and select a server window. Select a mailbox server. After you selected the server, click add and click OK. So basically what we're doing is we're going to choose our email server. In our case, we only have one. Highlight it, click add, click OK. We might have 10 different email servers, but we only want to let one send out. Click finish. So basically we created this send connector. It's going to the internet. It's going to represent all domains that we want to send to. We represented that with an asterisk. So guys, if you want, you can pin this to the start menu. I'll go back. I'm going to pin this to the start menu. There's one other thing I want to fix here. Guys, if I open this link, it opens up a PowerShell. But what it really does is it opens up PowerShell from a command prompt. So what we can do is we could create our own PowerShell utility that runs all the commands that we need that this runs. So guys, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my Exchange Management Shell, and I'm going to open file location. Then I'm going to go to properties. So basically what this does is it launches PowerShell, and then it runs this command. And this command is really a PowerShell script. So I'm going to copy this with the quotes. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to open up a PowerShell window. I'm going to choose the ISE version. Okay, I'm going to paste it here. And then at the very beginning of it, I'm going to put a dot space. That means execute. So that's a dot space, then that script. I want to execute that script. Then after that script executes, it runs another PowerShell applet. So what I've done was I went to this connect all the way to the very end and copied all that. And I'm going to paste that underneath and get rid of that quote. So basically, I want to execute this script and then run this PowerShell applet. I'm going to do File, Save As on my desktop, Exchange Management Shell and save it. So instead of going here and running this management shell and end up with this ugly, hard to work with command prompt, we're going to just use this PowerShell. So we just execute it. And so now we can run all of our PowerShell commands in here and have cut and paste and all of that good stuff. Zoom in, zoom out. With the other one, we weren't able to do that. So I'm going to click close. So in the future, when we need to run the PowerShell, we can just edit this and press play. Okay, and then we have all of our PowerShell commands. So we can do git exchange command. And there's all of our exchange PowerShell commands. Okay. The next thing I want to do is, now that our exchange server is set up, our certificate server should be able to pass out the certificates that we need for user accounts, because we now have an email field in our user objects. So I'm going to go back to my DC, which is my certificate server. And I can see that I had a bunch of failed ones, all because the email name wasn't there. So what we're going to do is click Start, run MMC. I'm going to do File, Add Remove Snap-in, go to Certificates, click Add. And I'm going to do it for user accounts. If you wanted to, you can do it again and have this console ready for computer accounts as well. Click OK. File, Save As. I'm going to put this on my desktop. And call it certificates. So if I want to get new certificates for my user account, I can expand user certificates. I can do all task, find certificates. No, I don't want to do that. All task, automatically enroll and retrieve certificates. Click next. And well, actually, I don't need to do this. By the time I got to this, it was already done. So the certificates should be good to go. If you had seen any user certificates here, which we don't, like admin, domain admin, user certificate, we're not ready to do these yet because we have to supply additional information. But all the other user certificates have already been granted. We'll verify that. So I'm going to go back to my certificate authority, look at issued certificates, and I can see now that these user type certificates are being issued no problem. Okay, we'll get to the Exchange server certificates here in a little bit. So all my certificates are good. I can generate computer object certificates or user object certificates. Now, the last thing I want to do is go over to the mail server, and I want to create a certificate for my web server that's on my mail server. So I'm going to go to um, Internet Information Services, IIS. I'm going to go to highlight my server name, click on Server Certificates, double click. I'm going to create a domain certificate. This is the self-signed certificate that we don't trust. So I'm going to create a domain certificate. The common name will be mail.contoso.com, and it'll be Contoso. I'm just going to say it's from our web services division, Davy FL. I'm going to choose the certificate, and I'm going to say, I'm going to call this Exchange Web Certificate. Click Finish. So there's that certificate that we just generated. So now I'm going to use that certificate for my website. So I'm going to go to the default website, go to bindings, and for this 443, I'm going to edit. And I'm going to choose the certificate we just created. And for this I think that's the one we just changed. Yes. For this 443, edit, choose the certificate that we just trusted, that we just created. Click OK, click Close. I'm going to close out all of these. This machine is running really slow. Okay, guys, I want to pause this while I'm trying to get my browser to shut down. Okay, so my browser shut down, so I'm going to go to my start menu. Click on my Exchange Administrative Center. My certificate is still wrong, so I'm going to try this. Okay, you notice my certificate is no longer red, so I would trust that certificate. Okay, so we're in. We have a trusted certificate, no issues. Um, Guys, I didn't create a certificate for localhost. I created one for mail.contoso.com. Um, I'm not going to bother creating it for localhost. If you go to this URL, this will be good for no matter where you're connecting from, or you're sitting on the Exchange server or you're doing it from your own client on your desktop. So I just created a certificate for this, not localhost. So if you try localhost, you'll still get a certificate error because my certificate doesn't include that name localhost. Okay, guys, that's it for the setup. This is the end of week 1 video, and I will see you tomorrow for class.